Welcome back! This lesson is going to be very practical. Here you have an opportunity to learn how to create a progress bar in a database to visualize the progress of any Notion document, no matter it is a habit tracker or a working project. Also, in this lesson, you will learn how to concatenate text pieces in Notion formulas. So let's start. First of all, let's prepare the emoji for our progress bar. Here are the emoji codes that I use for the project. You can find them in emoji menu. Depending on the operating system, you have to use a combination of hotkeys to get access to this menu. For Mac, it is Ctrl+Command+Space. If you have troubles accessing the emoji menu, you can just Google the codes and copy the emoji from the search result page. We will need 10 black squares in a row. Anyway, I suggest to find out how to access the emoji menu on your system, as you might want to use them a lot in order to create appealing Notion systems. I placed the emojis under the trackers table. If you have troubles adding new Notion blocks under the trackers tables, do the following. Create a new page for habit tracking system, return to the initial page and move it to the new one you have just created. Navigate to the upper level. You should appear on the newly created page and make the nested page turn into inline database. Now you should be able to add new blocks under the table. The problem is related to the way you created the database. It's very likely that instead of adding a nested table block, you converted the whole page to the database by clicking on one of the Notion suggestions. Now we are going to learn a new function which will help us to build a progress bar. This is slice function. Slice cuts a part from a text piece that we give to slice in the first block, and we can tell this function where to start slicing and where to end it. Text pieces or strings consist of symbols. Every symbol in a string has its sequence number, 0 for the first symbol, 1 for the second, etc. Similar to floors numbering, which starts from 0 for the ground floor. We can use the sequence numbers to tell Notion where to start and where to end string slicing. Note that Notion understands these numbers as before which symbol it should start slicing and before which symbol it should end slicing. Thus, the symbol mentioned in the second block will be included in the resulting slice, and the symbol from the third block will not. After the slicing, Notion will return this part of the string. It will contain the 0 symbol S and will not contain the symbol O, which is number 8. If I want to only get the last word in this example, I have to instruct slice function this way, providing 11 and 18 to the second and the third blocks. Note there is no visible 18th symbol, but we refer to it as if it were there, in order to get the tail of the string. Actually, we might only tell Notion about the second block. Notion will understand that we want a tail and will give us what we want. Okay, remember we have a sequence of 10 black squares. It's time to slice them. Let's copy them and add a new formula column. The string to be cut should go to the function as the first block. Let's paste it right after the opening parentheses. Quotes are required. Quotes is the way to tell Notion that we are typing a string, not a number or something else. Black squares look like a solid line, but Notion understands that under the hood there is actually a string consisting of 10 symbols. Starting point will always be 0, and ending point will dynamically change, depending on the percentage value. It means that we don't have a particular number that we can insert here. We have to figure out it first. For now, let's insert 10 as the third block, and I invite you to think on what should eventually be inserted here instead of 10. First of all, we should decide which amount of squares we want to show for different percentage ranges. I want to do this way: 0 squares for 0 progress, 1 square for the progress in range between 1 and 10, etc. For every of these ranges, Notion should do the slicing with different values for the third block, and we should take care of transforming the percentage ranges to the desired values. For this purpose, we will divide percentage value of property %done by 10 and round up the result. With this approach, for a range between 11 and 20, we will always get 2, and write the same way for all the other ranges. To build this formula piece, we will use slash for dividing and sil function, which works the same way rounds function does, with the only difference that sil always rounds the value up to the next larger integer. That's how it deserved its name, sil from ceiling. This piece of formula goes at the third block to the slice function instead of 10. Look at this. As soon as I change a checkbox state, I immediately see the changes in the progress bar column. It looks nice already. Cool, but I don't like that there is no special mark for 100% situation. Let's use the green check mark we prepared in the beginning of the lesson for 100% value. We will need if statement here. Do you remember its syntax? The first block is for the question or condition. The second block is for yes case, and the third block is for no case. In our case, the question sounds like, is %done column equal to 100? For yes situation, we want to see the green check mark. For no situation, we want Notion to use the construction with slice that we have just built. Do you already have an idea of how this if statement would eventually look? I suggest you to pause this lesson and try to update the progress formula with if statement by yourself first. Okay, here we go. We use prop function and the equals operator in the question to check if %done column value is 100. In the second block, we just use a quoted green checkmark symbol. And note the way I updated the formula. Let's use a fast-forward trick here. I will do it again. Notion doesn't format formulas, so it's quite difficult to realize what is going on if a formula gets quite long. That's why at the first thing, I type a formula skeleton and place the existing part to where it should be. Now it is much easier for me not to lose any comma and finish the formula with less confusion. Okay, we are done with the hardest part. Let's add some final details. I want to see % value separated by a space symbol right after the progress bar. To put together the progress bar, a space symbol, %done column value and %sign, I will use a plus sign. Surprise, surprise! Plus sign may be used for both summing up numbers and concatenating text pieces. Okay, let's try to concatenate all the pieces in the formula with the plus sign. Note that if you use a particular text piece, you should always surround it with quotes, so that Notion could understand that it is a text, not a function, not a number or something else. In our case, I'm talking about a space symbol and a %sign, but we could have text piece consisting of many words here. And look what happens. Notion tells us about an error. Type mismatch property is not a text. Oh my, Notion is so annoying with these types, you might think. And you'll be right. The thing is that for Notion it looks like we want to concatenate strings, but it also sees the number among pieces for concatenation. Look to the properties list. Notion considers %done column as a number. Plus sign is used for both summing up and concatenation. So it's crucial for Notion to avoid any ambiguity here. The pieces you use with plus operator must either be all of number type or all of text type. You can't use a mix of numbers and text pieces with plus operator in Notion formula. Do you remember toNumber function, which makes Notion to think of any value placed inside of it as of a number? There is a function to do the same for text. We can make Notion think of any number as of text, using format function. So, to finish our formula, let's surround %done property reference with the format function. Congratulations! You finished the progress bar formula. And once you check all the days, you see the green check mark in the progress bar property and feel very good about your progress. Actually, not many habits are supposed to be tracked daily, and later in this class we will update the system in order to support non-7 days habits. Well, now you are able to add progress bars to your systems. You may copy the formula we created and replace %done with the name you have for percentage column in any of your Notion systems. I'm very glad you managed to come to this point. In the next lesson, you will learn the power of relation property type. So, see you there!